Welcome to Wait, It Gets Better, the improvisational storytelling podcast, where every week we return to the table of storytelling like you return to a really great Chinese restaurant. I'm, of course, Levi.
I'm Reed.
And I'm Seth.
And we're here to tell you a story.
I pretty much only use chopsticks in a Chinese restaurant.
Yeah.
I tend not to use them otherwise.
For everything. Opening doors.
Yeah.
Checking your phone.
Yeah.
Yeah, like they say, when in Rome.
Yeah.
So should I give a brief recap?
Yes, please.
This is the last episode of our space audit series, right? We have our lead character, Auditor. I don't remember if we ever actually got a name for him.
No.
His name is Les.
That was Moore.
No, it's short for Leslie.
Leslie Moore.
Leslie Moore. And he has traveled to a far off asteroid belt where there was a mining operation to basically do like a murder mystery, as what the theme was, to figure out why the corporation he worked for shut down the sort of mining operations that were happening there. There's a small planet and then an asteroid belt that this really valuable material was being mined, and was going to figure out why. It'd been about 90 years. And he arrives at the planet to find all of the settlers still there, right? Their power, they had no more fuel to get into orbit anymore. Their laser cutters and stuff were starting to break down, and they were just starting to face the reality of having to sort of live, just kind of colonize the planet, and just that be that, They had no idea why. They don't think they had any idea why they were left behind. On the planet in particular, there was a sort of a library, kind of like a data center being built up. And the thing about the auditor is that his job had been pretty gamified. There was kind of like, if you would consider like a social credit score system where you could see people's kind of accomplishments and kind of understand how far along they were in life, and everyone sort of had this, whether it was an implant or something. So almost like a video game, you would look at someone and be like, oh, you're a level 12. Therefore, I understand certain things about you are real or not real. And so Les comes in to this place kind of putting people down because his systems say that they're really low level, and he's used to a much farther advanced system than they are. And so, but he's there to figure out what went on. We find out that the material that they were mining is a material that they found in, did I say Juno? One of the
moons of Jupiter?
Yeah, one of the moons of Jupiter. It's some sort of superconductive metallic material that this corporation was sort of mining. The Gage Corporation. And the villain, such as it is the old CEO of this corporation, who currently exists only in a digitized state, and there isn't a computer big enough to hold his consciousness, so he's beamed back and forth from different stations as kind of like a live data transfer. That's like the only way. So every year they get probably about like 15 minutes or so of time with dad or boss CEO as he kind of comes to consciousness, makes some decisions, and then leaves again. So I think that's kind of where we are. Have I missed anything?
Well, I'm thinking that the auditor's point of contact would probably be this Ren character. Seth introduced the anti-hero last time. And he's kind of like the cataloging auditor, keeper of the knowledge, so to speak.
And then there was the Smith. There was Smith, Mill,
Mason, Shepard, and Smith.
Right.
The quartet.
3 different people who were basically the descendants of a biologist, a geologist, and maybe 2 different types of geologists. So a Smith from a metallic geologist, Mason, a stone geologist, and Shepard, a biologist. They're like the descendants. I think we should make it 190 years. I think that 190 years isn't quite enough.
Okay.
So I'd say 190 years. That way we have like 2 generations.
Okay.
You know, so.
But anyway, I'm kind of interested in picking up the story because I was kind of anticipating that the auditor would make contact with this Ren, uh, who's trying to now transition into this new way of doing things, in where you have a big segment of the population who weren't even born, the last time there was any contact outside off world, so to speak. And they're just figuring out, okay, well, we got to make a go of it here. So we're
Right.
going to have to adapt.
Well, I don't think he wants to see him at first, because at first the Les is very much about just kind of coming in, and because he was expecting to come to an old dilapidated system and just kind of come in with his pressure suit on and plug in his diagnostics into the main server computer, and maybe pull out an old energy crystal and bring it back onto his ship. And but he comes down to find the entire diagnostics machines have all been removed.
Yeah.
And disassembled.
Cannibalized for parts.
Yeah, cannibalized for parts, reprogrammed to, run crop machines,
Yeah.
Backups have been force wiped,
Water and sewer. I mean, infrastructure.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And so it turns into this thing where all of a sudden he has to like do much more work, which he wasn't used to. Is anyone's story element relevant here? Because mine kind of is.
Okay, go ahead. What's
Okay,
what
yeah, go ahead.
my story element is random insert, and
Yeah.
And
it
mine
can
is
be
wild card.
And
Oh,
mine
well.
and mine is unique vehicle.
Okay, go Levi.
All right, so I will say this is not something based on a book I'm reading, but I did just get finished reading the Phantom Server series by, I don't know, what's his first name? Lavodny is his last name.
Lavodny.
Andre Lavodny, which is a lit RPG book. Very good. But since I already had the whole digitized thing, basically what it is this material that they're mining, based on its frequency, resonates either perfectly or semi-perfectly, like based on its frequency. I mean, based on its purity, resonates really perfectly with hyperspace. So not only is it an excellent conductor for like electricity, but with it purified enough, you can send things into hyperspace from it, and then you can receive things from hyperspace. So it has like just enough resistance that if something is traveling through hyperspace and you have the way to understand it, you can you like, with a really pure piece, you can hold it up to your eye and you can see things that are happening in hyperspace. And most of the time it's just like moving particles. So it just looks like snow. But every once in a while, you'll see like a giant animal the size of a planet just like
Yeah.
flash by. It kind of makes me think a little bit of the astral plane in the Dungeons and Dragons kind of universe. It's like a place where things are happening right by us, and there's like some loose connection, but most of the time the astral plane and the material plane don't interact with each other, except when they do. So this has to do with hyperspace, and in hyperspace there is less friction. There is, it's easier to move, and you can stream information into it, and then it will move at a much quicker rate. You know, this is kind of the technology that they used. The Cage Corporation. Did I say Cage or Gauge? I thought it was Gauge.
Gauge.
Yeah, the
Gauge is what you said this time.
The Gauge Corporation uses to basically send Dad back and forth.
Yeah.
From here to Jupiter.
Yeah.
Right? This is what they're doing, and every time they purify and get new crystals, at first, for the first like 10 years, they didn't see him at all. But then they kept getting purer and purer. And what they're trying to do now is basically create a computer that uses this in order to keep Dad on Earth full time.
And the idea would be eventually get to a place that would have the capacity to reconstitute his neural net.
Yeah, at 100%,
Right.
Because right now it's just not, it's just not big enough.
Dad.
Yeah. And so That's the unique vehicle.
Cool.
Now, what happens with that, I don't know, because one of the things I want to touch on is that there was originally a much smaller corporation that started mining this asteroid belt that the Gage Corporation bought out, right?
Right.
These were a group of people who were honest and who were good and who were seeking answers to the questions in the universe, right? They were bought out, forced out of business
Yeah,
by the
they're
Gage Corporation. But before that, they have at this planet, the abandoned planet, they have like several tons of this incredibly high quality, glass or whatever we want to call it,
right.
you know? So they have this. So I'd kind of like to see something happen in this new society that's been working its way in isolation, where they utilize it and they actually have like a significant advantage. Maybe they have figured out how to use it to store data, right? Where they're
Yeah.
still figuring that on Earth because the stuff they have is like only 2% pure, and the stuff that they have on this asteroid is like 30%,
Yeah.
which compared to 2%, 30% is pretty pure.
Yeah.
It's nowhere near 100, but it's something, you know. So I'd like to see. I don't mind if it's an advantage that they have like their computers are just amazing, or they have weird ships. Maybe there's a guy developing a sort of warp drive sort of thing. Whatever it is, it'd
I
be
think maybe
interesting.
with it is, I mean, bringing back to like a game idea, is what they have developed. So it's for hyperspace, right? And so perhaps what they've
Right.
done is, as they've lost some technology, but they have a copious amount or a plethora of this material for like interstellar travel
Yeah.
through like the astral plane. But what they are end up able, it's like they can't use it to cut, they can't use it to oh, what do you
You can't
call it?
eat it.
Can't eat it. But what they have figured out maybe is almost like in a game, if people have played games where like your inventory is like this invisible spot, right?
Hmm.
And you can put just about anything in there.
Right.
Um like maybe things up to a certain point depending on your like transmitter. Like if you have like a
Right.
16 gigawatt transmitter, you can transfer up to like 16 tons per minute
Right.
of like
Or and
physical
that's
stuff between one point to another. So it's like, here, let me send this over to you. And it's like, and then they like take their transmitter, put it on the object, and then it'll like actually send it to someone else who can
right.
then receive it through
Or you
theirs.
or you just have like an inventory. You can just take an apple and just put it on. You have like a thing, like a watch on your wrist, and you just set it on the watch. And like the ability to digitize, to break something down and turn it into information has been around for a little bit, and save perfectly what it was. But typically, what you do is you'd have a machine at the other end that had all the necessary chemical components that it could rebuild that thing perfectly.
Hmm.
But this way, you use the digitization part of it, but it just goes into a little shard that you have.
Yeah.
Like I think with D&D, like a bag of holding. That's all a bag of holding is it's just a pathway into the astral plane that you have bounds on.
On like Stargate Atlantis, these fast little darts that the Wraith use, and they zap people, and they put them into a digital holding, and
Right.
they don't reconstitute them aboard their ship. They bring it to a hive ship, and then they bring them back.
Yeah.
Yeah. When you were talking about in the creatures in hyperspace, I thought about, remember that old TV series where the Earthman gets accidentally transported.
Farscape.
Farscape, yeah, and they have those like space whale ship where they actually live aboard these big creatures that can
Yeah.
transfer through hyperspace.
Yeah.
That's what I thought of when you were saying that.
Yeah. I mean
That was really there's parts of that Farscape that really captured my imagination.
yeah, it's good. Um,
So with this, because I know our was it 4-year anniversary? Is that coming up?
our 4-year anniversary is coming up. Yes,
Which
like as in the podcast's 4-year anniversary.
right. But because I remember, I think for the first year we went back and we redid story elements from past stories. And the thing that makes me think of this is that the unique vehicle that I came up with on Winston is betting on the Hornets, which was everybody's favorite, which I think is episode 36 or 38.
Yeah.
But what was it? So where it also has something like that, but it had to do with like the little cage device for the bees.
Yeah.
I don't remember.
You don't remember?
No,
Well, it had like
I.
anyways, that's fine.
Okay, great. Listen to episode 36 if you want to hear about that one. Anyone else have any ideas?
Well, I could put in my random insert here.
Okay.
Yeah.
I really like. I want to bring the Ren character in more, and I just my random insert is he's married to Mason's daughter. And Ren's kind of the company man, right? But his wife, like, she's dealing with making things work, and she like they got this kind of old school farmers market where people are growing stuff that people can eat and they trade for it, and it's kind of not part of his grid, really, so to speak. And I just think that creates an interesting interface. She gets anyway.
What do you mean when you say he's a company man?
Well, his role was definitely in geared toward sprung out of the way the company organized their endeavor. He was cataloging everything, and you know his predecessors in the job were the people that saw to the shipments and the procuring supplies, and if we needed any different personnel, or if some people wanted to
Right.
transfer personnel needed to transfer back, they'd come for the setup part, and
Right.
or now their job was kind of done and they were ready to go back home, and that went along for like 4 decades, and then just stopped.
Right.
And here he's left in this position, but he doesn't, how he fits in. He's got this kind of the keeper of the knowledge, which is great, but to what end? It's kind of ill-defined.
Right.
And here he's married to this gal that's really stepped over kind of in the new world, so to speak, as far as we're just building a society here.
Right. I just had
So
this. Yeah.
yeah, go ahead.
No, you
No,
go
go ahead.
first.
No, mine is has to do with like wrapping up towards the ending. So if you have something to add, then go ahead.
Well, my idea was that this material is somehow it's either a ship or it's the bones of one of these creatures, right? Somehow brought over who knows when, right? Or it's a ship, right? And at some point in Ren's kind of research, he finds, something because like everyone, the currency in this planet is these pieces, but then also at their purity level,
Yeah.
because if you have something that's really impure, you can't really store a lot of information. Or maybe you store a bucket in it and then you try to take it out and it comes out as fragments because it's impure, you know? So it's
Mhm.
still having the purest piece is still really important and then having a big one,
Yeah.
you know? It'd be kind of cool if there was some kind of big crazy reveal, like a path to the other side, or a doorway big enough that you could like walk through, made of something pure enough that you could like just walk through to the other side and be in on the be in the moving my hand around the moon of Jupiter
Yes.
where those remnants were, you
And
know?
yeah,
Can you
and
imagine a planet-sized being or a planet-sized ship that kind of hit our sun or something, and then slowly has been spreading out and raining on planets all around, and moving out as the years have gone by. So all of there's remnants of this stuff everywhere, kind of thing.
yeah, And then, then the whole, like you say, the murder mystery genre, the idea that the auditor is uncovering the fact that this was an up and going operation,
Right.
and that it was shut down at the corporate level.
Right.
And a great deal of, you conspiracy theory. I mean, a lot of people had to be involved in the cover up, or and how to make this. These people were just away, and how do you make them go off grid? And
Right.
here they are. It's like a lot of pent up energy, economic energy, production energy. They're like they were geared as a mining outpost to produce, and here they're just left to their own devices. And
Right.
and so I'm like I'm seeing how is Les unfolding this whole scheme.
Right. I think about the the second jihad in the Dune books. After the first Dune book,
Hmm?
you know, the spoilers, the Fremen leave Arrakis. They don't all leave, but a lot of them leave, and they just literally are at war with like the rest of the planets in the Landstrahd,
Yeah.
right? And part of that is because they can, but part of that is because they have been abused
Right.
and manipulated and oppressed for thousands of years.
And
And it's a little bit like I got to get my anger out.
and like and the ethos of the galactic empire, so to speak, has been based on the universal assumption that the Sardaukar of how House, what is the
House Carino.
Carino, yeah, were invincible, and all of a sudden, hey, these Fremen are kicking their butts.
Right. But the point that I was trying to make was that they went on this great thing not because partially because they realized that they weren't allowed to leave
Right.
before.
Yeah.
Their plant Arrakis had been persecuted and isolated, and it's already told in the books that Arrakis is really far away.
Yeah.
You know, and I think about that. Like, what if Les comes and everyone is like hoping he'll tell them what Great War happened,
Yeah.
and then
Because
he tells them
no.
basically no war, and all of a sudden they're like, my family, I mean my parents' family, all of the opportunity. You mean we like slaved away? We lived in terrible squalor. We can do something about this now.
Yeah.
You know, we can focus a cutting laser through six 30% pure crystalline structures, and we
Yeah.
can cause so much resistance on Earth that no electronic system will ever function again.
Yeah.
You know, we can put spots on the sun. We can, there's like no end to what they could do. And so less becomes less of a just I'm going to figure out what's going on, and he turns into like the symbol of why they shouldn't do that. It's like
Uh-huh.
my family is still on Earth.
Yeah.
You can't do this.
Yeah.
And yet I will still get you. You will still have your revenge, but just kind of acting out is not the way to go. You know, especially since they have like weird, lots of strange machines that can do strange things. First he comes down to the planet and they all seem really kind of backwards. They're like riding horses, or whatever the horse equivalent is for this world, and they're wearing leather, and he's got
Yeah.
his like synthetics on, and
Yeah.
he's got his power packs, and none of them have power.
Yeah.
Except the fact that they do have power, and it's beamed from a place to them because they have a piece of that machinery of that glass that can intercept the energy and put it so they don't. It's like, well, you still have batteries. I thought we would have gotten past batteries. It's like everyone here just gets the energy that just comes off the sun
Right.
forever.
I was thinking that what they could do if they figured out how to interface is that they could say, look, you're going to have to do right by us, or we'll just, hold Ed Gage. We're going to just interrupt his
Yeah,
flow,
yeah.
and his neural net can be scattered to the
Right.
urethral plane or
Right.
whatever.
Right. Right. Um, that's an option. Um,
So my
Seth.
wild card, I'm gonna play it into, I guess you could say, like, happy ending.
Okay, let's hear it. I'm excited.
Um, so kind of bringing it all together here. I think two different ways that it could go together. I think one, if we wanted to tie this into um some of our other stories, this could possibly be where some of the founding civilizations started that initially went through the stars and started seeding stuff. Because I think with this they
So,
discovered,
you saying this is the
what's that?
start? This is the start of the seeding civilization?
It very well could be if we wanted to. I've got
Okay.
a different way that we could, but basically, so if they are able to use this to um hyperspace, right, in the higher purity, they've been here for
Right.
190 years.
Yeah.
um and you have people like, um was it Shepard, Smith, and Mason, and Wren, and it's like a council, where like they're kind of on the high council, and they've cut communication off at this point with the rest of the world, obviously, and their ancestors did this. I think one of the loopholes being that when the smaller corporation, probably the Moore Corporation, because
Yeah.
as we had said last time, Les also, I think his family had sided with Gage when Gage was
Yeah.
buying them out, and so Les's father, grandfather, if it's been 190 years, had probably shifted to maybe try to make more of a neutral stand between the two things, and got his descendants kind of into like government and auditing and stuff like that. And so, in some cases, this could be, Les could have some connections to the Gage Corporation to be kind of their lackey in their pocket, or he could pull his family ties, eventually have those come out and side with this other, let's say, smaller corporation. However, uh, where was I going at now? So he's going to be going down for this audit, and I think what has happened is they have discovered either how to step, from that, I don't know, Jupiter's moon, or I don't know if like, was it Neptune or Uranus have, do they have moons?
Yeah, I think so. I'm pretty sure
Okay.
almost all of
I
them
think
have
one of
moons.
those have moons, because I'm thinking whatever this is, it's probably not on Jupiter or Jupiter's moon, but it's either in an asteroid or one of the other moons slightly farther out.
Yeah, so the asteroid belt where it was lost is, I would say, outside of the solar system.
Maybe just outside of.
Yeah, like maybe still,
That works.
I guess technically in the solar system, but not on any sort of actual. It's like not astrologically interesting at all. Not like a planet.
And so, anyways, one of the things that had passed in as we had started getting out into the stars, one of the laws that had been passed, because what has this been now? 190 years. I think that if they can hold out here for another 10 years, they would hold indigenous status,
Squatters' rights.
basically squatters' rights, being that it technically fell into no man's hands because it was kind of shuffled off when Gage Corporation bought everything, and the Moore Corporation basically sold it to itself, but then they disappeared. And so it's become like a
Right. Right.
non-entity property.
Right.
Um, and so that's one of the reasons the auditors go in there to figure that out. But on that planet or on that asteroid or moon, they, like, the people that know that if they can hold out for another like 10 years, which is about, the time to travel out there, do the report, and make it back, then they can, basically say that we're, the indigenous population of this planet, and then no one can really touch it, and they'll gain an autonomy.
That's a good idea.
Um,
Yeah,
so that,
really
I
good.
would say, is kind of coming into play. Now, again, if we wanted to, we could kind of leave it at that, or if we wanted to say that they were starting to, from there, like leaving people here on this planet to kind of, let's say, play the front, because and because one of the things I was thinking for the happy ending was either two things. Either one, they're all putting on a very like played out front, that to kind of test him because he is part of the family, and it's kind of a test to
Right.
see if he can come back, like, let's say, into the fold, but not necessarily into the fold as the corporation, but into the fold now as part of, because that's where most of that family went.
Right.
And so kind of the part of the murder mystery is to get him to figure out what happened and to kind of see where his loyalties really lie.
Right. Right.
And so then kind of he passes it, it would kind of end where then it's like, then they kind of reveal to him that's like, oh, now that you've kind of passed the test, now you've yeah, now we you can come, you can be part of us, and we're actually stepping halfway across the galaxy in the matter of minutes,
I was
with
One of the things I was thinking of is I just had this vision of him coming down from his 2 month deceleration, right, to the asteroid field, and starting his scan, like at the beginning, him starting his scans to find the old ships and stuff, or because there has to be some indication of the plot of, like, you know how, like, gold plots and stuff work. It's like there has to be some plaque or some indicator, and
Yeah, infrastructure.
he finds the infrastructure on the asteroids, and he starts to come near them, and he moves kind of through, almost as you would say, through a wardrobe or through the asteroid belt, and then coming around the asteroid, he sees the planet, and he's like, "There's not supposed to be a planet here." Like, and he descends into the planet, and at first he's kind of shocked, and he knows that there's like a lot of resistance, and he finds out it's because of this material and stuff. But what the reality is that he is this is the planet is in the astral plane, right?
Cool.
And the Gage Corporation didn't have any idea about a planet, right? To them it was just asteroid mining. And then he kind of goes down to this planet and finds all these people and all this stuff, and then everything you're saying, Seth, starts to happen as he kind of realizes, oh, this is like a pretty big deal, huh? There's like a lot more to this than I kind of thought there was. Does that ruin your stuff, Seth? I just had
No.
this vision of that happening, and it would just add complexity and weirdness to it, but it doesn't have to be that way.
yeah, no, I think it fits all right with what I had in mind.
Yeah.
The idea of it being like I think they would kind of know that he's coming. Um
Right. They'd be able to see him come from afar, like a long way away.
and so it's like almost like, because I almost wanted to like pull it back into almost like a game thing, and then maybe that's why like everything isn't quite what he thinks,
Right, right, right.
because it's like they're particularly designed, or it's either is a simulation that they step him through, or they are playing almost like a game plot to kind of gather him through to be like, oh, that sounds like something you might need to talk to Smith about. Here, take these things over to Smith and ask him about, like, almost like they're sending him on a quest to go, talk
Right,
to Smith, and
right,
then go help Shepard do this, and it kind of helps him get to know everybody as he's auditing and figuring things
right,
out, as they're kind of vetting him as kind of that last member of their, say, corporate family, that, to kind of allow him to kind of see what happened and gauge where his loyalties lie, to then give him kind of that reveal behind the curtain.
okay, cool. I can take that as an end. I think that'd be
I
a good
like it.
end.
Yep.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you liked that as an end, let us know. If this story needs a sequel, let us know. If we need to never touch this story again, let us know. Email me at waititgetsbettercast@gmail.com, or at me on Twitter at @getsbettercast. If you think you could do a better job at telling this story than me or Seth or Reed could do, I would say just wait. It gets better.